Good day, folks. You know what time it is. Yes, that's right. It's Rings of Power and Marvel time. Lol, just kidding. It's House of Dragon time. Welcome back to Two Maesters podcast for 101, episode 9. Oh my god, how have we made it this far, Josh?
I generally don't know. It's like 9 episodes, going to head towards 10 next week, and it has flown by really quickly, especially now that we're in the studio and we have this nice setup as well. So hopefully one thing that my brother told me about George R. R. Martin, what he said about House of the Dragon, is that he expects it to have 4 seasons. So hopefully Two Maesters goes on for another 4 seasons.
I know, that would be good. Oh, so one thing I should point out actually is, I know I said this is our episode 9, but it's actually, the season is on episode 8. I think that's the one that just went by. Yeah. Sorry, a bit of a confusion there. Correction before the audience jumps on us, comes outside our houses with pitchforks and knives. But yeah, wow, that episode. I mean, these past 2 have been absolutely spicy.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind about this episode?
I would say the way that Daemon executed Corus Valerian's brother, like the way they did it perfectly, like
Damn.
like the fact the king was like, "I will cut out your tongue," then Daemon literally chops the top part of his head, so all that's left is his tongue that you end up seeing, and then he then crashes to the floor.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that was amazing, and I love it. I saw a meme about this. Like, Daemon is the epitome of talk crap and see what happens. Like, because he does that with Vaemon. Vaemon's like, you can see Vaemon's getting ready to lose his temper and say unspeakable things, and Daemon makes eye contact with him and says, "Say it." It's like, damn. He's just ready.
Yeah. And I was surprised the way he was like, "You might need to bleep this out." He's like, they're bastards, and the fact that he's like, and she's a. It's like, wow, like literally.
Yeah, I know, he went too far. Like, because that's it. You know, some people might think Viserys, being a weak person, would let that slide, but generally, even as an old man, he's literally reaching for his blade. What's he gonna do? But I suppose it's the principle.
Yeah, and it's just the fact that literally that he was kind of goaded into saying it, and Daemon knew that if he goads him, gets him killed, it means
solves that problem.
It solves the problem completely. And I think that is one of the things that we've seen, that Daemon and Rhaenyra together are problem solvers. Like, if there's any problem that either of them have, it's like one will sort it out. Like in the previous episode with Laenor?
Yeah, Laenor.
Laenor's in the way of our marriage. Here's a solution. Or the fact that Daemon was like, I'm tired of my first wife. Here's a solution.
Yeah, I mean, you could say they're problem solvers. They're also problem makers as well.
True.
They probably balance out as just, I'd say, problem makers.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's a question we can put to the audience. Do you think Rhaenyra and Daemon are problem makers or problem solvers? I generally think it's more of a problem maker thing. Here's a question for you. Who do you think would win in a fight? Daemon or Aemond?
I think at present, Daemon, yeah. But I think Daemon realizes that he is the biggest threat.
Yeah, and he knows it.
And he knows that this guy is trying to take my corner, like as the person who says things that everyone else doesn't want to say, but says it out loud. Like, especially with the toast, like,
oh my God, that toast. Oh, that was so funny.
And the fact is, like, they were like, oh yes, and to you, when you be queen, that's what, when Alicent said that, you're like, oh my days, maybe they can patch things up. And then the king's like, then leaves. The king then leaves, and it's like, oh, okay, then. And he's like raising his glass saying, oh yes, and to the strong.
Yeah. I was like, lol. It was like, he does like the brave, noble, and then he has this pause and he's looking around, and strong. And then everyone's just like everyone slams on the table. It's like, blah, 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 blah. Like, and I loved it how Aegon, the Rhaenyra's, not Rhaenyra, god damn, that's confused. I mean, Alicent's Aegon, was being a little a-hole at the start of that dinner, and then
his sister shows him up.
The sister who's actually his wife.
Incest.
Yeah, that his sister's his wife, but she's actually on, like, when talking about sizeness, she does not give a crap because I think she's a dreamer. That's why she's a bit cuckoo. Like, she's actually got foreseeing powers. Like, in this episode, at the dinner, she says, I can't remember what she says, but something about underneath the floorboards. That's going to come up in the next episode or something. Because remember with the millipede she was playing with when Aemond and Alison were talking, and Alison was like, Aegon, stop picking on your brother. You need to stick together. And it's like, one day you'll have a dragon, Aemond. And what's her name again?
Yeah, I've forgotten her name.
Well, the dreamer says, but you'll have to close an eye first. And then what happens? He loses an eye. Like, it's crazy. She is prophesizing things. I think she did another one, but I've forgotten. Maybe in the last episode. For me, like, there are just so many cool scenes and moments in this episode. Like when Otto is sitting on the Iron Throne. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this salty son of a boop. He's loving it. He's finally on the Iron Throne. By the way, another character who hasn't aged, Otto Hightower. Like, he was old. Yeah. He was fairly old to start. I would argue he was older than Viserys at the start of this series. And like, he still hasn't aged. Yeah. I think Daemon maybe has aged a little bit.
Yeah, they're like showing more like wrinkles and like having less hair, like just bit by bit less hair.
Yeah, more forehead wrinkles.
It's still the fact that I think Sir Kristen Cole hasn't aged either.
Yeah, Sir Side Piece, as you coined.
And as you said, like the captain of the Kingsguard, he hasn't aged one bit at all throughout the whole series.
I think his beard has got a bit whiter, but even still, he looked pretty old to begin with. It's kind of funny, but also kind of like, I can't remember many shows when they've had this many time jumps in one series. Yeah. So it's a bit weird, but I'm thinking of like shows like Vikings, for example. All the men seem to age in that, but the women like Lagertha, I'm trying to pronounce it. Yeah. She does not age at all. I mean, I haven't watched, I think, the last 2 seasons, but she really does not age, whilst Ragnar Lothbrok ages like a prune in the sun. Like, yeah. And
and I think I really did like with Vikings. Now we're just verging off topic here.
Yeah, why not? Screw it.
The fact that I think when they did the time jump when the kids became older, I think I actually really liked it, because then it then would start to get like monotonous. Oh, this is how Ragnar's children grow up. And I think at times TV series do need to make like a time jump to say, okay, then the point in between this part of the story and that part of the story is just pretty much dull. You know, in films, they just do like a growing up sequence where it's just music in the background, parents taking their children out here. You have those kind of scenes. But I think at times you just need to like jump. But I think it's kind of hard to like, I think for like the average fan who either hasn't read the books or doesn't know what's going to happen, it's kind of like hard to judge where the series is kind of going. Because then like the king, it's like you've got characters who are aging, but then who aren't. You've got some characters that. So, for example, Aemon looks older than his brother.
Aemond?
Queen Alicent's second born.
Yeah, Aemond.
Aemond, yeah. He looks older than his older brother.
Yeah, he does, to be fair. And he is younger. Maybe it's the eye, but also I'd like to see the ages of the actors, actually. That would be a good thing to look into.
And like Aemon is all supposed to be around the same age as also Rhaenyra's firstborn child as well, because they're around about the same age. Because remember when they were like play fighting, which also links into when they were playing around with the dragon as the pig, which also plays into this episode, that the age gap wasn't that much between Rhaenyra's eldest son and Aemon as well. And it kind of seems like now that there is a distinct that Rhaenyra's firstborn looks like he's maybe 15, 16, could possibly pass as 13. But Aemond is like late teens, heading towards like maybe even early 20s.
Yeah, he does have quite an old look to him. I think it's just like also like just reading online, like the person they chose as an actor, like a lot of people singing praise, and I think really well. Like there's that menacing look he has just with that one eye, to that one eye. Like when you first introduced to him and fighting with Kristen Cole, and he beats Kristen Cole in that practice fight, and then he just snaps around and sees Rhaenyra's children's like, cousins, here to train, are we? And it's like, he's gonna gut them.
Nephews.
Oh my God, it's nephews.
Nephews.
Incest. Oh incest. My God, this is wrong. This is so wrong. I just can't even remember who's who. Got family issues, and I guess that's a one big awkward family dinner at the end because they're all pretty much related. I mean, technically, Otto Hightower is related to. Yeah, I guess you could. Well, he wouldn't be related to Rhaenyra's kids directly, but they are in-laws.
Yeah, and
they would be in-laws.
Which is weird that Otto Hightower is Rhaenyra's, I think, stepfather. No. Her step-grandfather, yeah. Otto is a step-grandfather because Alicent is her stepmom because she married her father, which then messes everything up.
But then Otto isn't her grandfather.
Because that's her stepmom, and it's just weird. Like,
they need to invent new words for it. I think
they do.
I think whoever's maybe that's what the Targaryens were good at doing, inventing new words about all that crap.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the fact that you've got Daemon's children marrying Rhaenyra's kids, which means they're
they're
marrying their aunts, all their second cousins, because they're second cousins. They're marrying their second cousins because Rhaenyra is Daemon's niece. So they're marrying their second cousins.
Oh my!
But this is just really just messed up.
As they say in the show, Gods be good.
And I think that also kind of like links with the reason why Queen Alicent is also getting involved with the Seven. I think that's one of the key things, because if you see it, like, especially from the Game of Thrones series, you see how much power the Seven had in the Sept.
When the Chamber Militant comes out,
and even in season 6. So it seems like she's kind of like putting her ties towards them, especially that they're not too fond. The Seven and the Sept aren't too fond of like the Targaryens, especially the incest side of it.
Exactly, and that is a big thing in the books. Like, I think it happens before House of the Dragon. That there's this big fight between the religious, who are like have militant orders at that point, and the Targaryen dynasty, basically in a civil war because of the incest side of things. And eventually it's resolved because they say, well, blah, 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 the Targaryens are, what's it called? What did kings and queens used to justify their rule back? Divine right. Basically they're chosen by a divine power, the Seven, so therefore they're exempt on that incest side of things, but everyone else can't do incest apart from the Lannisters eventually. Still waiting to find out if the twins in this one are doing it as well. Am I right? Incest. But yeah, that is pretty crazy. I'd love to see how a family tree would look for the Velaryons and the Targaryens, because they're all very, if you look at them, it's like one branch and then line and another branch, but then I don't know how a family tree works with incest, because then it's going to be diagonal branches going everywhere.
Or what some of them do is like put people in multiple places, which like I've seen, like I remember learning like about like War of the Roses, that they would put a person in multiple places, especially if like they would marry multiple times to different sides of either the Lancastrians or the Yorkists, and they'd marry one side and then marry to another side of the family. They'd put them in two places. Yeah. But I think that would make it easier, because the lines would just make everything confusing.
It would look like a mess, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Like, even to your point about House Velaryon, it's like, there is technically no more House Velaryon, because if Corlys Velaryon is dead,
Do you think he's dead?
I don't think he's dead.
I'll say nothing.
I don't think he's dead.
I'll say nothing.
Because I think he's too important of a character to the story to be dead, and also I think it brings more tension that if he does come back and finds out that Daemon had killed his brother as well, so he's kind of has mixed emotions about, okay, his brother tried to take his birthright from him, and then also think about, but then also Daemon didn't have a right to kill him. Yeah,
that's going to be weird, because you thought the Laena thing is kind of, There's some things two things I really want to point out that, although I'm just head over heels in love with House of the Dragon. I loved Game of Thrones too much, despite final season, to like say anything bad about this. But we need to play devil's advocate here. First of all, with Alicent, what happened last episode? She slashed Rhaenyra's wrist, and there was a proper confrontation there. Like, now everyone sees you for what you truly are. Damn.
Yeah.
And then they basically make up in this episode just because Viserys, being a sad, grumpy... We need to talk about that in a minute as well.
Yeah.
But being a sad, longing old man, was like, you need to kiss and make up, if not for the kingdom, but for this old decrepit man. And they kind of do, don't they? I think that's just a little... I know time has passed, years have gone, but mate, if someone slashed you with a knife, like, especially a frenemy, like someone who used to be your like best friend and then you became enemies, because that, friendships can turn very bitter to the point where you become the worst of enemies.
Yeah.
If they slashed you in your arm, would you forgive them?
I think it depends. I think they don't really forgive each other, but I think they both realize if this escalates, the children we love, hence what Queen Alicent said, could end up dead or could end up being killed. Like, I think they both realize if this thing escalates, none of us are going to be happy with this situation and the consequences which is going to happen. So I think they're saying it's better off to then just let things lie, because we've got more to lose than to gain by continuing. And I think...
Yeah, maybe if you put it in that way.
I think that's why they were, at the end, they were kind of awkward. Like, when she's like, oh, we'd love... the king and I would love you to come back after you've gone back to Dragonstone. It was like, if they were friends and made up, it would be like, oh, Rhaenyra, I would love to see you again. When are you coming back? But it was more of like formal. So it was like, it gave them, I think the TV series is like, oh, maybe they can build their relationship up again. But one of the things you see with this scene is that the hatred they had for each other, which wasn't proper hatred, it was more like mistrust and dislike, the hatred is now transferred to their children.
Yeah, and I think of the father.
And I think now, because they've kind of pit sides against each other with the children, it's hard to now tell them to not. Like, even like Alicent, when she told off Aemon, and also when his older brother Aegon smashed the other guy's head into the table.
Which guy?
What's got Rhaenyra's firstborn. Remember when he
smashed his head into the table?
He either threw him down onto the table, because remember he basically said that when he said the strong comment, and then he says, take that back, and he starts walking towards him. I think it was a second-born who got up, and then Aegon grabbed him and then slammed him onto the table so he couldn't move. And then the eldest one is the one who, when he punched him in the face, and they had to then be separated by the guards.
Yeah, I think so. And then he's trying to look all hard and sick, and then they take the I was going to say the strong boys. I mean the the heirs to the throne away. And then Daemon just steps in and confronts Aemon. Doesn't even say anything, just pulls a face, and Aemon's just like, and just knows, yeah, okay, I'm gonna walk away. I'm like, damn, Daemon, damn. Like,
now's not the time. I might as well go back to my room now.
It's like, go on, I dare you. Like, after what happened with Daemon as well. Oh, God, Daemon is such an arsehole, but he's such a like, everyone loves that arsehole. You don't mess with Daemon, you know?
Yeah.
You don't play with fire. He's definitely a problem maker, for sure.
Yeah.
And like, so Viserys, like, I've got to admit that I feel like the portrayal of Viserys has been so good throughout this entire show. Yeah. Like, so good. Like, great acting from Paddy Considine. But, like, especially in this episode, like, there's almost a heroic element. Like, when Otto Hightower's sitting on that throne and, he's like loving it. And then, behold, the... King Viserys.
King of the Andals and the First Men.
Yeah, do you know the whole spiel, guy? King of the Andals and the First Men.
King of the Andals, the First Men. Oh my days! I used to remember it all.
I'm gonna get it up.
So the Andals, the First Men, King of the Rhoynar as well.
Yeah.
And then they would say either first or second of his name.
I think he's first of his name. What's the full? Okay. blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Right, so what do you want to go for? Try it one more time. Let's see if you'll get this right.
Okay, so King Viserys, King of the First Men and the Andals, King of the Rhoynar,
Yeah.
and the First Men.
The First Men again. You could be King of the First Men multiple times. Yeah, I think you're right. King of the Andals, Verona, and the First Men. Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah. Good. And then, I think that's it. I think that's how it starts. And then I can't remember how the rest of it goes. I thought there was another bit, but it's not.
Yeah, because they must say something about his like Valyrian heritage and also him being a Targaryen as well.
Yeah, and then when it was Daenerys from Game of Thrones, she adds even more like the unbroken, the betrayed. I was like, oh my God, just get to it already. We know you're a member of the royal family. Like, holy cow. But like that scene when he walks in, amazing. Like the soundtrack to it.
Yeah.
When he's actually gets to the throne, he's clambering up. Kingsguard comes to help him. He's like, "No, I'll do this myself." And he's like wobbling around, and his crown falls off. And then Daemon comes and picks up.
You know, my brother told me that it actually was an accident. It was actually it was all the makeup that on him that caused the crown to slip. And then,
Really?
and then
That's
Matt Smith just picked it up and then gave it to him. So like, you know what? Keep it in.
Yeah.
Because actually, I think it was that was the biggest brotherly moment that I've actually seen Damon show towards his brother.
Yeah, that was actually. Yeah, it was. And you're totally right. I've seen that online as well. And it's beautiful that they actually kept that in because it was just so touching to see that. I mean, I think there was only one other brotherly moment in the series. You know, when Daemon's just come back from the Stepstones.
And he gives him the crown. Yeah.
Yeah. But then Viserys hosts him like some, I don't know.
Oh, the
barbecue.
garden party thing.
Yeah, and then Alicent's like, "Oh, Daemon, we've got these wonderful tapestries. Would you like to come see?" And then Viserys does on, "Yeah, Daemon, would you like to go see those tapestries?" They're like, "Oh!" I think that's the only brotherly moment, other than when he actually returns with the crown on his head. Yeah, beautiful moment. Especially at the dinner when he does that speech for Ceres, amazing, actually really emotional. You really get caught up with the emotions of that scene, and then it looks like everyone gets along for a bit. Like even Otto Hightower is having a bit of a laugh. He does some weird thing with Sam. I don't know what it's about. It was oh, happy family, maybe we'll get along. But yeah, we all know that's not going to last.
And I think they make him look better than in the actual the books and actual history written by George R. R. Martin. It's
did you see that as well? George R. R. Martin said you've done a better job with the series than I did in my books. Yeah,
because when you read it, it's no, he was indecisive. He basically said everyone swear fealty to Rhaenyra, and then says just before he dies is I'm not sure. Maybe I should have.
Is that what happens in the books?
In the books, he gets everyone to swear to her, but then later on, when he then has a son, he then isn't direct in saying that. So in the TV series, he always reaffirms that Rhaenyra is queen. She is the heir to the throne.
Even at the end, because remember Alicent, he starts talking about the Song of Ice and Fire because he thinks he's talking to Rhaenyra, and he just says Aegon, and Alicent's like, "What? My Aegon?" I'm like, "No, it's just not your bloody Aegon." But he was saying,
and he then has a son, but then is too weak-willed to then say no, it's Rhaenyra still going to be queen. But he didn't really send that message, so it was people so who is actually going to be the next king or queen? And then that not knowing then caused everything to then explode. So not trying to send any spoilers at all, but then it caused everything to explode because he wasn't thoroughly, because he didn't expect to have any more children. That's why he asked everyone to swear fealty to Rhaenyra. But then when he then had a son, he
changes everything.
It changes everything. Some sides thought, because you have a son now, it means that everything's changed. So it should be the son based on Westerosi tradition. Others said, but we've swore fealty to Rhaenyra and our word is our bond. So therefore, and then that kind of caused the tension. But it seems like in the TV series, it's he has more of a backbone.
Yeah, he does actually. He seems like a good father for his daughter. He really does stand by. Rhaenyra's basically pleading in this. When she goes to Rhaenys and says, and then Rhaenys like sounds desperate, lol. But then when she goes to her father, and like that kind of made me sad a little bit. That scene when he's in bed and he just can't recognize Rhaenyra because he's on, I think, Milk of the Poppy or something. And she's like, "Father, I really need you to support me," and then she just breaks down crying. So that was actually quite emotionally touching. But and he comes back and he really puts his foot down, and he wants his daughter to be queen. I think everyone seems to forget though. The show does paint him off as like, a lovable, flawed figure, but he did also basically kill his wife in like the first episode by the whole cesarean thing. Let's not forget that. But
I think that's the issue with the show. It's like everyone has done something that you're like, oh yeah, but they might have done this, but oh no, yeah, they did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like Daemon. Oh, Daemon's kind of a badass. He's kind of cool, but yeah, he did smash his wife's head in.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not forget, they might seem cool and nice at times, but they have done some pretty
horrendous things. Like even like in the first episode, like that whole scene with madness in King's Landing. Remember when he's like cutting off people's hands, testicles? It's like you're like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about this. That David actually did this. Yeah, he's an arsehole. Like,
sorry, go on.
Then the fact that I think its cleverness of the series is that it gets you to love the characters and then start to forget the bad that they've done, and then they do something wrong, and then you remember, oh yeah, but they also did this as well.
Yeah, that's true. Because again, everyone's a shades of grey. Like, I was asking whose side would you be on also, but who do you think's right or wrong? And like, I think both you and Dee said Rhaenyra, but I was like, I don't think it's really clear cut because it appears that she might have killed Laenor. It's not really certain. Did Daemon let Laenor live, or was that Rhaenyra's plan all along? Because she actually really likes Laenor. So I think maybe she did let him live, but she also lies a lot as well. Like, when she confronts Rhaenys in this and says, "I swear I had nothing to do with the death of your son." Well, I guess it's kind of true.
Yeah.
She had something to do with making it look like your son dead. I mean, your son's dead basically because of you in your eyes. I mean, you don't know he's alive, but how do you know you ever see him again? Like,
yeah, and also, I think it's the shame that she's also brought on like their house, the House Velaryon. Like it's one thing. I think it's one thing. Like, oh, for Rhaenyra, she's going to be queen, but the fact that everyone's saying that her children aren't actually Valyrian, they're actually strong. It kind of also paints a really bad image for Corlys Velaryon, his wife, and also their family, and like that then caused Corlys Velaryon's brother to then stand up and then say that, and then
get wrecked.
And it's like, also back in those times, like based off medieval Europe, like how much shame do you think that she's going through because of like her son is, and also the sadness, like her daughter's dead, her son she believes is dead, she believes her husband's dead.
I know.
And then she also, her brother-in-law, who they kind of had a kind of friendship, is now also dead. So like when she goes back to Driftmarch, and also because her granddaughter is now going to be in King's Landing, she's going to be by herself, like in solitude. Yeah,
that's quite a beautiful scene actually. Again, like House Dragon really good on the cinematography stretch. When they're preparing like I don't know who's doing it, the Maesters or Septons or whatever.
Silent Sisters, yeah, that's what they're called, yeah.
The Silent Sisters are preparing Vaemon's body, which is just, I thought that was a little bit comical because it's literally like, it's all somber, like they've got the body there, but then the head's just sitting next to it and it's still like, it just doesn't look, but still, like when the Septon or Maester goes up to her and says, it's ill luck to look upon the dead, and she's like, I've been looking at ill luck all my life. I've lost my son, my daughter. What does this matter to me? I can't remember the exact quote, and then there's that scene of her just standing over the candle lights behind her. Beautiful. Those little moments, those really like great camera angles and just catching the emotions. Like in the last episode with that fireplace argument where Rhaenyra, Alicent comes at Rhaenyra the blade, the reflection, the way they show the fire raging in the background. It looks like the place is on fire, but it's just capturing the heat.
Of the situation. Yeah.
Really good, really good. I'm not even sure Game of Thrones had like that sort of level of like cinematography. And no, Rings of Power kind of has caught on to that as well.
Yeah.
Like one thing I'll say that's good about Rings of Power. I mean, there's a couple good things, but I just don't think it has anything against House of Dragon. It's beautiful to watch. Like they've caught on to that cinematography flex quite a lot. Expressing that art, and I think everyone can appreciate that. Like, for example, my mum, I showed her the first episode of House of Dragon. She's like, gross. And I've shown her Game of Thrones in the past. The only episode I showed her happened to be the one where Jorah Mormont's getting the grayscale stripped off his body, and there's also a sex scene in it. But that put my mum off quite a fair bit, to be honest. But she's into House of the Dragon now, and I think catching that sort of audience is pretty good.
And I agree with you. Like the cinematography, the setting as well, the way that they put the music in as well, I think is like really, really well done. And I think especially when you've got like scenes of like real tension, like the scene at the engagement party, the fact that, as we discussed, you couldn't see who was fighting to begin with. So that brings the tension that the king has to us as well. Because we're like, oh my days, who's fighting? What's happening? And you feel like the king and everyone on the high table are saying the exact same things because they don't know what's happening as well. So we kind of feel the way that they're feeling at that point in time. And
also, you don't get a perspective,
And I think like even your point when Aemon like literally is like training with Sir Kristen Cole and then turns around, is that the fact that we also see and feel kind of like what his nephews would have probably felt like, damn, like wow, especially when you see like the eye patch as well. And you still see like the scar, and it's like he always has this like smile on his face, like no matter what, he has that smirk on his face, and it's like
with that eye showing as well, just intensity to it. And like it's kind of like when actors have stuff over their face, because think about how much human facial expression is not just your eyes, seeing your lips move, like the way they curl, they sneer back, your eyebrows, the creases on your forehead. Actors like, for example, Tom Hardy as Bane, they get commended really well on just portraying emotions just with their eyes. Like Aemon does as well, like that menace, that sort of like, it's almost like a look of amusement, like he's finding it all very funny, and that's quite unsettling, isn't it?
like oh my days, Mad King Ares type vibes.
Definitely. Do not want Aemon on the Iron Phone. Do not want Daemon on the Iron Phone. Speaking of which, this is what I was looking up whilst we were talking about earlier. I couldn't find the one for House of the Dragon, but this is this thing that comes out in a lot of TV shows where it's like you list the characters. So like there'll be lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, lawful neutral, true neutral, chaotic neutral, lawful evil, neutral evil, and chaotic evil. So I could only find a Game of Thrones one, but in this, for example, you got Jon Snow. He's lawful good because he's an honorable man. He actually is trying to do good. He even lies about having a bastard with Jon Snow because he doesn't want him to get killed by Baratheon. Then you got Jon Snow as neutral good. Not sure why he's neutral good. I guess he ain't lawful because he almost betrays his Night's Watch vows.
I think that's it. Is that he's good, but he will break the law.
Yeah, and he betrays the free folk as well. Yeah, then Tyrion Lannister's chaotic good. Well, yeah, come on, he is chaotic good, isn't he? Yeah, because he's a good character at heart. Just he loves whoring and drinking and just saying witty things. Stannis Baratheon, lawful neutral.
Yeah,
I could definitely see that. Yeah, I could definitely believe the lawful side.
Like he is stern to the law, but it's like he does good and also he does bad, but he still try and justifies it by being lawful. Like especially what he did to what's his name again? The Iron Knight. Onion Knight.
The Onion Knight.
Sir Davos,
Sir Davos,
that he actually gave him a knighthood, but then also cut off his fingers for being a smuggler. So that would technically be neutral, really, because like he did. Like Sir Davos did good by smuggling to bring in goods during the siege, during Robert Baratheon's rebellion to help out Stannis. So if he was like lawful good, he would just have knighted him. But the neutral part was also cutting off some of his fingers as well.
Harsh but fair, yeah, exactly. He's still a man of law. The only thing I will say is he did also burn his daughter alive.
Yeah, and
I'd say
I'd
say he's more on the side of maybe lawful evil.
But I think what they're saying is that the reasoning for doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're saying like he killed and burnt his daughter not for his own personal gain, but because he believes he's the right person to save the Seven Kingdoms.
I'm going to make the same excuse next time I do something horrible.
But I think the thing, but lawful evil, Cersei doesn't care about the Seven Kingdoms. She doesn't care about the people. She doesn't care about anyone.
Yeah, what does she care
about? And then you end up
kids?
finding out like she didn't even care that much about her kids. Like the fact that you remember in like when Tommen dies, she tells Jaime, "We can have new kids." I'm like, what? Like remember at his funeral that like
they banged.
Yeah.
Next to the, whoa.
And then the fact that she was like, we can have I think it was Jaime said that they can have more children, and the fact that we thought she was doing it for her kids, but then in season 7 and 8 you realize no, she isn't doing it for her kids, she's doing it for herself. And maybe she used her kids as an excuse. Oh, I'm doing it for my family, I'm doing it for my kids. But then in season 7 and 8 she realizes no, I'm doing this for myself. I'm not doing it for anybody else.
Yeah, she lost all her kids by that point now.
Yeah.
Because Mycella's dead, Joffrey's dead, Tommen's dead. So
her father's dead. She's also had her uncle killed, her cousin
she
killed.
Got shamed as well.
Yeah.
Saying shame. Yeah. Okay. All right, and then we've got Jaqen and Hagar as true neutral. Jaime Lannister as chaotic neutral. As we just said, Cersei Lannister as lawful evil. Then we've got Lord Baelish as neutral evil. Yeah, I suppose he is neutral evil because he's not chaotic. Is he lawful? Well, no,
not
he's
really.
not. No, he pushed.
Lawful,
he's killed on some people.
Yeah,
and then of course we've got Joffrey as chaotic evil. Okay, so with all those in mind, where do you think some of the characters from House of Dragons come in? Who do you think is lawful good in House of Dragon?
Lawful good, I would say the only one who emanates lawful good is the captain of the Kingsguard. I think he's the only one I can see as being like lawful good, because like there are times when Kristen Cole has basically kind of like walked the line to help and favor also favor Alicent.
Yeah.
And before that, favor Rhaenyra. But then for him, it's like, no, this is the line. I stay away from the line. I'm lawful good. And I think neutral good is also, I would say neutral good might be...
Neutral good. No, because they seem very similar, the idea of neutral good and lawful good. Because I guess neutral good means you don't necessarily follow the law, but you're just a good person.
Yeah, because it's like, for example, for years ago, like, abortion was illegal. But then that's what people say about law. The law isn't always about things which isn't all about good and evil. It's about what is allowed and what is not allowed. So like, for example, you had like the prohibition during the 30s, no, the 20s leading into the 30s in America. And you've got it's now legalized now. So was it good then or is it bad now? But it's like lawfully good is someone who's basically sticks to the law and does good in the space of the law.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like neutral good is like, I'm going to do good, law be damned.
Yeah, law be damned.
If I have to break the law, it's like a perfect one. Captain America is neutral good. He's not, because the Sokovia Accords basically said you need to register as a superhero.
Yeah.
He said, no, I'm not signing up to that, because if I sign up to be, if you ask me to do something I don't want to do, and because I've signed up to the Sokovia Accord, you're now going to tell me that I can't help these people, I must help these people, when to be a hero, when not to be a hero. So I would say that that Captain America is neutral good. And I would say, I don't think there's anyone in the series who's neutral good. Because either we don't know, there hasn't been enough scenarios for them to be neutral good. But I think the person who is chaotic good, I think might be Alicent's daughter.
Yeah, she
'Cause-
might be. She's just on her own wavelength. But then, what does she do that's necessarily good? Well, she basically just calls Aegon a-hole, which we all know. But has she done it? Does she do stuff out of goodness of her heart? We haven't really seen much of her, to be honest.
That is true.
I would say chaotic evil. Let's start with that because that's probably the easiest to pick. 3. We say it after I say 1. 3, 2, 1. Daemon Targaryen.
I was going to say Damon, but I think he might be neutral because
neutral evil?
Neutral evil, because I think with him is like, is he on the level of Joffrey? Is he on the level of Mad King Aerys?
Actually, you know what? Chaotic evil might be Aegon. Actually,
yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah,
and I think because he is subtle and very subtle when being evil, like the way if it was Joffrey and he wanted to kill his wife, he would make it open and public, and people would see it, and people would sit down and laugh about it in his presence just to be nice. Or with Mad King Aerys, the way that he killed Robb Stark's father, and his brother Brandon Stark and Lord Stark, that was like something chaotic evil. But I would say he's more neutral evil because like he can control it. It's like can you say that any of his actions are chaotic? They seem like planned.
Sorry, who was this again?
Daemon. Like his actions aren't chaotic. They always seem to be planned.
Well, he seems like a bit of a loose cannon in that he would literally start a war when he occupied Dragonstone with the City Watch. He's ready to like literally fight there.
But then people are saying
it looks planned. It's planned,
but it was planned. Like the killing of his wife was planned. What he did at the episode 1, even though it was chaotic, it was still planned. He did it for a reason, to let the low lives, as he said, of King's Landing know the power and might of the Targaryens.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't quite seem unhinged, whilst Aegon seems unhinged. Maybe Aemond could be... Maybe he is also... Well, Aemond and Daemon are basically supposed to be... the counterparts of each other. Their names are anagrams of each other, so maybe they are both neutral evil and that they both plan some things. Who do you think's lawful evil?
Lawful evil.
Let's do a countdown. Let me know when you got one in your head.
I don't think I have one.
I would say Otto Hightower.
But I would say that he's lawful neutral, because I know who's lawful evil. Lord Clubfoot.
Oh yeah, Lord Club.
Because
I think he's chaotic evil actually, because he literally just kills his. Like, he wasn't in the last.
But he did it within the law, though. Like if he was chaotic, he would have done it himself.
Did he have to kill his father? Where in the law?
But the thing is,
kill his father.
What he did is something that Cersei would have done to kill her rivals. Like, he used the curse of Harrenhal to cover up what he did, but
he killed his brother. I think that's chaotic.
But then Cersei killed like her uncle, tried to kill her brother on multiple occasions.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I do forget about that. Actually, Cersei basically wanted him killed.
And I think he kind of leans towards chaotic, but the outcome was chaotic, but the actions he took weren't really chaotic. They were like, or maybe he's neutral evil then, because what he did was like, I think he's neutral evil because what he did is like something that Baelish would do, like literally go to the prisons, get people, cut out their tongues, and convince them to commit the crime. So therefore, it doesn't lead back to him. That's a Peter Baelish move.
I don't know, but I'm not sure you could argue Peter Baelish is necessarily... Well, I suppose he's not chaotic because he's very planned. Because chaotic, I could see what they mean by chaotic. It's like unpredictable.
Yeah.
It's funny. So I did see this for House of Dragon. The only one I'll give away to you is true neutral. The one in the middle was just one of the dragons. It's true. They're like... They're by their nature. They're just doing what they're doing. I think we could spend a long time debating that. So maybe we'll come back to that next episode because it's quite an interesting chart. I've seen this with a lot of series like The Boys. I can't remember what others, but really interesting to look up, folks.
Yeah, and maybe for an episode we could do it for like we mentioned like Captain America. Maybe we can do one for Marvel.
Yeah, Marvel would be good
because I can even think
Thanos.
Lawful good. Now I've got me thinking that Captain America's lawful good, but he did break the law But I think chaotic good. Who would you say in the MC universe is chaotic good?
Oh, chaotic good. I'd say Iron Man. Iron Man, maybe.
I was gonna say like Rocket.
Who's Rocket?
Rocket Raccoon from.
Oh yeah, from Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah,
but then you could also say that Thor is kind of chaotic as well.
I'd say they're chaotic neutral, really, because although they do come on the side of good guys, they're they're obviously
that is true. Yeah,
like mercenaries and bandits, really at heart.
So I would say maybe chaotic good would be Thor then, because like he does cause chaos nearly everywhere he goes, and his actions are very chaotic, aren't really well planned, but he's always trying to do some form of good.
Yeah, that's true. He kind of like a bit headstrong. I do love that scene in the first Thor where he tries coffee for the first time. He's like, "This drink, I like it," and he smashes on the floor. Bring me another. Yeah. Oh, well, we'll come back to that. That's quite a good chart to look at. It makes you think about a lot of characters and their motivations. So, what do you think is going to happen in the next episode?
I think it's going to like continue from like what happened at the end of episode 8. The fact that I think the king was poisoned, and he was poisoned not by Alicent, but not intentionally, but was done by Daemon's former wife. You know, the woman,
Lady Massaria. Yeah, she does appear in this episode.
And then she asks the woman, "Has the deed been done?" So I think it might be.
You know what? Yeah, what was that scene?
I think it could be that they might have switched. They might have switched his medicine for poison. I think that's what could have happened, and that's why when he takes it, like there's a tear, and it looks like he's about to die. And I think. Maybe
the Tears of Lys. That's like an actual poison in Game of Thrones. It's untraceable.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's what's going to cause the strife to go back to increase. Like, what if?
I wonder why Lady Massaria.
Maybe Daemon got her to do it. Because like, what if Daemon is planning that? Okay, if the king dies and it looks like Alicent poisoned him to therefore enable her sons to be king instead of Rhaenyra. That means that gives us justification to wipe them out, and therefore there is no trouble with them later on in Rhaenyra's reign.
Oh right, yeah. So Gaslight saying, "Oh, you poisoned the king. Let's kill them all because they did it, not me." There's our excuse.
Yeah, or the fact that he saw it as a mercy. Like literally, he's probably
could even just be a
hell of a lot of pain. Like.
Yeah, it was quite tough to actually watch that in that episode, actually seeing him like struggle like that. Like, if you have any grandparents who are going through the latter part of their years, it kind of struck a chord with me seeing him like that a little bit. Yeah. As per usual, when it comes to what we think is going to happen in the next episode, I'm going to be quiet because I've already seen the trailer for the next episode, but that's public. We can talk about it. But I know the title of the next episode, and I also read the book, so I know what happens. But yeah, what did I see in the trailer? Oh, it looks like there's going to be a big announcement, lots of people gathering and stuff near the Dragon Pit. But I'm not quite sure what that might mean, to be honest. But I know what's going to happen. And, Alicent thinks, it should be Aegon on the Iron Throne. And I mean, to be honest, I was saying, like, I'm not sure Rhaenyra is, like, a good person in this. But then Aegon, by far, is not a good person. He's chaotic, evil. Like, I don't want him on Iron Throne. So I'm probably going to say I'm going to be team Rhaenyra from now on. Yeah. Even though I think Alicent isn't necessarily an evil person either. But I don't know, who's more evil though, Alicent or Rhaenyra?
I think neither of them are evil. I think that's what they tried to portray, like in the last episode, that it's mistrust, and it's basically mistrust, and also for Alicent's side, it's like family. She's being pressured first by her father, then also by her uncle.
Yeah.
And then also the fear of potentially what could happen to her and her children when Rhaenyra takes the crown, bringing in that mistrust.
Exactly, but then that was Cersei originally, that Cersei was... Generally, I think Cersei was just acting the way she was to protect her kids, especially knowing that her kids were bastard born and weren't born of, the Baratheon heritage. So quite a lot of similarities with Rhaenyra there. But then I'm talking about Alicent. It's really weird because you see so many qualities from all the different characters of Game of Thrones reflected into different characters here who don't necessarily match like the chaotic evil, the lawful evil side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
a lot of food for thought.
But I think Rhaenyra was clever because she now has kids with Daemon who are actually Targaryen.
Yeah.
So,
What they call it? That one's called Aegon.
yeah, and I think that's one of the things I also wanted to ask you. Like, is Daemon going to be fine with his kids not being on the throne?
Oh my god, yeah. Imagine Rhaenyra wins, and then
that can be another part of it. Like, is he going to be fine with like he knows that the children are bastards. Is he going to be fine with like someone who isn't his own child, someone who isn't a technically Targaryen because it's by the father and not by the mother, being king? Because technically, when she becomes queen, he is prince consort, but technically he's king.
But not quite.
So the question is that would he kill off Rhaenyra's previous children to therefore have his kids on the throne after him? Because then that brings like a whole new dynamic of it. It's like, Daemon, how much is he going to actually protect if things then do hit the fan? Like, how much is he going to protect, like, Rhaenyra's children, like, the ones that aren't his?
God, there's so much I want to spoil right now. Like, even saying that sounds like I'm basically agreeing with what you're saying, and therefore I've given away a spoiler, but not even, like, I can't even say, oh, it's so good, so much juice, so much is going to happen on the horizon.
And I think, like, when Corlys Velaryon, because I don't think he's dead, when he comes back...
Yeah, be like, what the hell is... Wow, bet you didn't see that coming, lovely audience. We had a power cut at the studio just when we were getting into it.
I know.
That came out of nowhere, yeah. It was quite shocking. Where were we? What were we talking about?
That all hell will basically break loose when Corlys Velaryon comes back, and I think that could then cause more tension between the different sides as well, because then you don't know which side is he going to join up with. Is it going to be... Oh my days, they basically killed off my brother and they've given the inheritance off to two people who aren't even of the Valyrian line? Or would it be...
He doesn't seem to care, though, about the...
But he kind of seemed like he did care, but he just wanted to keep with tradition. Because like when he was having the discussion with his wife, it was like, but we need to keep this much of tradition. Because she wanted...
What tradition, though?
The tradition, the Westerosi of tradition of that it must be passed to the male line of the family.
Right.
And that it can't be inherited by a woman. Because she basically said, why didn't you give it to your eldest granddaughter? And he said, is
that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I think that he might come back and then just say, no, I want it to go to my eldest granddaughter. Because technically, the king said it, but it's still Corlys Velaryon's decision. But it just needs to be ratified by the king, but it's still his decision. So that could throw spanners in the works if he comes back and says, no, the line will go to X. Or he could then even say the line can go to if his brother had a son, maybe? Or to an actual Velaryon, because he could have a complete change of heart that been left out at sea, almost dying, then gives him a huge revelation that, oh my days, the Velaryon line has almost died out. If then it then goes to Rhaenyra's second son, therefore the Velaryon line has officially died out because his brother's now dead.
Wait, are you trying to say Rhaenyra's second son isn't a Velaryon? I wonder whose side you're picking, Josh. Yeah. Well, yeah, it'd be interesting. I'd also like to see if he's aged at all as well, because as we know, very certain characters don't. I mean, and finally Daemon, I think, has aged a little bit, although he still looks pretty good. Like, be keen to see about that. Yeah. Well, I guess after that power cut, that was somewhat well timed. But oh my god, like, wait till the next episode. I can't wait. Honestly, I cannot wait. Myself and Josh are going to stay in the studio the entire week until then, talking about neutral good and who's neutral good and who's neutral evil.
Good.
Yeah, we'll have the whole chart set up, and we'll also do the Targaryen family tree and Velaryons. Thank you so much, Josh. Any last thing you want to say?
One last thing I would say is that it's really hotting up, and especially as I've read the lore from the larger book, it's really going to be loads of action, I believe, up until the end of the season. Hopefully. but it also depends on how much they want to show and how much they want to take off into the next few seasons.
True, yeah. I feel like there will be some, because there's not really been a lot of action, really, has there? Just like drama and soap opera, apart from like the crab feeder stuff, there's not really been much. Oh, and well, Vaymond getting his head. Well, he wasn't even decapitated. What do you call that? Bisected? What's even a word for it? But yeah, I think I agree on you. There'll be some action next. And yeah, thanks, Josh. And a special thanks to Joffrey from the Pick Up the Mic network, who is our Lord Commander, always watching over us in times of darkness and despair. And to my audience, I say, you're alright. No, I'm joking. I love you. I love you all. And you know what? I'd love you so much more. So much more if you subscribe to our Patreon page in the link below. I'd even, you know, I will send you a Valentine's card if you click or leave us a comment saying how damn amazing myself and Josh are. Mainly how amazing I am.
No to that.
Whatever. And click the notification bell so you can find out when our next episode is released. Goodbye, you lovely people, and have a good week. Ciao, ciao.